CTA was 2019, towards the end of 2019. I then had like a bit of a lump on my chest. I'm literally starting or in the thick of my first year of articles. I'm now faced with this life-threatening illness and I'm going to live in spite of this illness. I cried like I was alone in my apartment. I called my mom and I cried. Like I just cried. I couldn't even speak. I was able to pass both uh, undergraduates and CTA in record time. Um, and I'm truly grateful for Tutuga as well, in the sense that I don't think I would have, been in the position to get all the resources I got if it wasn't for that bursary. CTA was 2019, towards the end of 2019. I then had like a bit of a lump on my chest. So I didn't know what exactly this lump related to. And I was just like, you know what, this is not something I'm going to focus on because, I'm waiting for CTA results. Got my CTA results, figured out I passed, and I just moved on with life. And all along, when this is happening, like the lump on my chest is growing, but I don't know what it is, and it's painless. And I'm just secretly telling myself that no, it's gonna disappear because it came by itself, so it should go by itself. But that's literally the worst thing that you can ever tell yourself. Like, I think moving forward, now that I've learned so much about health and wellness and your body in general, I'll definitely advise people like if you see something is off with your body, just go and inquire as soon as possible or investigate before it gets too late. I'm lucky enough that it wasn't too late by the time I found out, but like I also acknowledge that I did just prolong it and leave it, until it just made me feel uncomfortable. Whereas I should have just tackled it the moment I saw it. It kept growing. So I'm like, "Ugh, okay, I'm not comfortable wearing open tops anymore because now it looks like I have a golf ball on my chest. And one thing about that is like, obviously, because I can see it, if I'm out and about, people can see it and they'll be like, oh, what is that? And I don't know what it is myself. So I don't know how to answer those questions. So I was just like, you know what? Let me just go and find out what this is because clearly it's not going away. And by the time I decided to do this, this was now in 2020. And that was now my first year of articles. So I did my articles at PwC, and it was thick of COVID because it was 2020. We just shut down and everything. Um, but by the time I went to go and check, I think it was around April or so. So April 2020, I had already gone past the ITC phase. So I wrote ITC with this thing on my chest, not knowing what it was, and just like, not paying attention to it. I think at the back of my mind, I just told myself that, you know what, let me get through ITC and then I will sort out my health. And again, I'll say like health isn't something we should put on the back burner. And I've learned that now. Sometimes you have to learn things the hard way. And I get it that the CA journey is very daunting, but like, if there is something wrong, you rather just go find out like what's wrong or what it is. Yes, it did work out in my favor to just, put it on the back burner and focus on ITC. But at the end of the day, I went through what I went through. And I'm not saying that it could have been avoided. I think we could have just detected it sooner. So yeah, I did. That being said, I did write ITC not knowing that, you know, I had a cancerous lump on my chest, and I passed. Then towards April, I decided, you know what, let me just go for a checkup. Went for a checkup, and it was crazy because, I don't know much about doctors, but in my varsity days, I did binge watch Grey's Anatomy a lot. So I know when a doctor can see that something is wrong or like, you know, something is serious. So I would read the facial expressions and I'd be like, okay, I think this is going to be something serious because the first doctor gave me a referral to the hospital. So I just knew that, okay, something serious is happening here. And I did go, to the hospital that he referred me to. And yeah, I had a mammogram done, and they felt like, okay, that's not enough. And what was meant to be like maybe an hour or 30 minutes visit at the hospital ended up being a whole day event. And I say this in the sense that I was being sent from one doctor to another specialist to do a scan, to do, you know, this and that, being put in that machine, being put in the other machine, going to talk to a surgeon. It was a nightmare, but at the end of that day, I was just told that, look, we need to basically do a minor surgical procedure to test the cells that are in this lump to see what is happening, because this is what we suspect. So, yeah, I would say from April 2020, that's when my journey began. And from there throughout May, between April and May, I underwent about 3 surgeries. And this is because the first 2 surgeries, which were biopsies, where they were trying to just test the cells to see if they're cancerous or not, they came back inconclusive. So the results kept coming back inconclusive. So I already knew from my Grey's Anatomy experience that, oh, this is not good. Like, if you have test results and they can't figure out what it is, it's usually cancer. It usually ends up being cancer at the end of the day. So I think mentally, I had already prepared myself for the worst. But what I can say is that process of waiting for results and then being told you have to have surgery again, it was daunting, and that's what was really impacting like my mental health at the time. I can say I was probably at my lowest when they were still trying to figure out if it was cancer or not, because I kept trying to tell myself in my head and pray that it's not cancer, but something deep down inside of me was just like, girl, it probably is, but let's try find a way to deal with it. And I just didn't want to accept that. So I would say by the time I had the cancer diagnosis, which I'll touch on, I had already fought the mental war, and I felt like I had already won it. So um, the getting to that point was the one that was hard. Like, getting to the point of trying to figure out what it was is the one that was mentally daunting for me. So yeah, the third surgery I had, they concluded that it was cancer. And then I was told that I would need to start chemotherapy as soon as reasonably possible, because it actually was stage 4 blood cancer. So, hey, it's one thing to have cancer as like a 21-year-old, 22-year-old, but now when you're being told that it's stage 4, you're like, how? Like, so I'm dying. Like, that's immediately like what comes to mind. Stage 1 would be like maybe it's just on the upper part of your body, maybe like your armpits or something. Um, and then stage 2 would be like they find it on the upper part and maybe somewhere on the lower parts as well. And then stage 3 would be if it's affecting like a muscle as well, or like a different part of your lymphatic system. Stage 4 as well, it's affecting more than one organ. So for me, it was stage 4 because the lump on my chest had basically penetrated into my muscle. So it's now affecting an organ, and that's how they classify it as stage 4. And because it is a blood cancer, it's basically the cells that are affecting another organ. So the cancerous cells are actually penetrating into my organs. So yeah. So yeah, but obviously that's just for Hodgkin's lymphoma. For other cancers, there might be different stagings. Um, but for example, your stage 4 leukemia would be very different to a stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma, because leukemia is more aggressive. So yeah, that happened, and I just had to prepare myself for chemo because my surgeon advised that I started as soon as possible. And at this point, it was June 2020. So I was just overcome with a lot of emotion because I'm just like, oh my God, I'm literally starting or in the thick of my first year of articles. I'm trying to absorb all this new information. I'm trying to like put into practice all this work I've learned from university, and I'm now faced with this life-threatening illness, and it was a lot. It was a lot to take in. Um, so I did ask my surgeon for some time to just like recollect myself before I get into the whole chemotherapy thing, because I wanted to learn more about it. Because you get told so many things, like you see so many things. You're like, oh, you're gonna lose your hair, you're gonna, lose your eyebrows, you're gonna lose all these things, you're gonna lose weight. You're basically going to look like death, and it's something that I was struggling to come to terms with. I didn't want to look like that, and thankfully I didn't. But yeah, it's just a thing where like you mentally have to come to terms with the reality that you have to shut your whole body down in order to build it back up again. So I needed some time for that, and I think I started my chemo in August. Yeah. So many people had already invested into this process of Project Monica becoming a CA. And I won't say I only did it for the people. I definitely did do it for myself, because I'll speak to the dreams that I have for myself. But what I would say, firstly, is, me getting that bursary to go to university, it was literally just a matter of chance. Anybody could have been selected to get that Tutuka bursary to go to Wits, but I was selected, and I was selected for a reason. So I kind of felt like, you know, if I had given up at that moment, it's kind of like a slap in the face to everybody who is invested in that process. I think for me, I had to shift my mindset from a point of, oh, you want to give up, to just, this journey might just take a little bit longer, and it's okay, you know, because it's circumstances that I can't control. It's not something that I planned to happen, but if the journey has to be extended, let it be extended. But to just throw the towel in and just say, you know what, I'm done with all of this, it really would have been a slap in the face, not only to the people that invested, but as well to myself, because I know the dreams that I have for myself to achieve certain things. I know that, once I become a CA, this is what I want to do, for example. And I'm basically shutting all of that down because of the specific stage in my life. So I would say I had to force myself to think optimistically. Like, I really had to force myself. It's something my surgeon also did tell me, that like, yes, we are medical professionals, but you also need to think positively in order for things to just, work out. Like, the mind is a very powerful tool. If you think you're going to die, you're probably going to die. That's the reality. Like, you need to not think like that. So I just told myself, what, this is a part of my life. This is a part of the journey. This is a part of the story. Some people have their own issues when it comes to maybe not passing, having to repeat certain modules. Fine, I was able to gracefully go through that, but then my health journey, or my health situation, was going to be the marker for my journey, because I don't think I've met a CA or someone who's on the road to becoming a CA who doesn't have a story. And this just had to be mine, no matter how brutal it was. Yeah. Yeah, with this, I had to come up with a plan. So firstly, I sat with my doctor and I asked all the questions. I was basically just asking how long will I have to have the chemo for, and how will I feel after having the chemo? How long will I be out for? Because I didn't want to go back to my employer and like just not have all the answers, even if they didn't expect me to have the answers. But I think when you're let me say, I don't want to say when you're CA, but when you are in accounting, or let's say in audit, for example, you have this habit of planning. You want to plan things. before you go and address something, it must be very structured. So I sat with the doctor and they told me everything. So basically, it was just me having chemo every 2 weeks. And in the 2 weeks that I have the chemo, basically, if I had it on I would have it on a Thursday, and I would be out that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then I could go back to work on Monday, but like not like fully hands-on, just light work, nothing too hectic. But basically, what happens is when I would have the chemo on Thursday, my body would need to basically process that, and you're basically just bedridden for about 2 days. So the Thursday, Friday, you're bedridden. Saturday, you start to feel a little bit better because you're basically flushing all the toxins out, all the waste. You're basically, like to put it in clear terms, you're basically going to the toilet and you're taking out the cancer in the toilet. It's either you're vomiting or you're peeing, or you're doing a number two. Thankfully I didn't vomit. But yeah, this is just that process of constantly going to the toilet to get rid of the waste is very tiresome, very draining on the body. Um, and obviously you have just other side effects, feeling weak, maybe some skin rashes here and there. um, and yeah, I would go through that for the weekend, and then the Monday I would go back to work. But this is all virtually, of course. And then I would work a full week, and then the next week I would only work up until Wednesday, because the Thursday I would have chemo. So this is something I had discussed with my, I think we call them counseling managers. So when you're in articles and you have someone who's responsible for your personal and professional development. So I spoke to that person and just let them know, like, this is the situation, this is what's happening. And we came up with a plan. And it was just communicated to the relevant people that, okay, this is what she's going through, and we'll need to just come up with a plan for her workload. So they were very accommodating when it comes to that. And I really appreciate them for that. And yeah, it made the process seamless for me. I felt like I just didn't have to explain too much, because you don't want to have to always explain, oh no, I have to do this, I have to do that. It's something we discussed once and it was relayed to the relevant people that needed to know. And yeah, I was just able to do what was expected of me in the time frame, and then have my chemo as well. So it was very balanced. In August, and I finished around February. Yeah, 6 to 8 months. Yeah. I had just spoke to my family and told myself as well internally that we're gonna look at this from a point of view where, like, it's just a setback, and I'm going to live in spite of this illness, or in spite of this disease. I think what was very important for me at the time was to make sure that the little that I could do, or that I was able to do to make myself happy, I was doing it. So whether it meant, also within the sphere of COVID, it was also very difficult because there's social distancing and all these things. So there was one or two friends that did know that I wasn't well. I wasn't really big on telling a lot of people about it, but the one or two friends that did know, I just made it a point to, like, spend time with them, do activities, just like do things in a sense where I don't feel like this disease has control over me or control over my life. And just trying to find a way to do normal things, or your normal day-to-day things. I remember the time I was being diagnosed, I was actually in the process of buying a car. And I spoke to my surgeon and I'm like, so should I stop all of these things? Because I felt like my life is moving in the right direction, and now there's this whole cancer thing. Like, should I stop? And she's like, no, like, this is not the end of the world for you. Like, continue as you would have continued. So I went on and I still bought the car, even though I knew I was sick and I had to start chemo and all of these things. I just wanted to keep doing these little exciting things that I hadn't planned for myself. And I think that really helped me mentally just see past being sick and just give myself grace in the sense that I know I can't fully be out there and do the most, but it's in these little things that I'm able to do that remind me that life is still worth living. And, just spending time with my family and being positive about it, and them also seeing me trying to just embrace the positivity also did help them a bit, because I wouldn't say it was easy for anyone. It was very hard, especially for my mom to see like her own child is sick and fighting this disease. It's not something that a parent can just swallow like that. It's very difficult. But I think just being able to mentally talk myself out of dark spaces and just be like, you know what, there's more to life than this. Let's try day by day to just do little things to make myself happy. And yeah, I think that really helped. But not to say that they weren't dark days. They were days where I was like, "Ah, this really sucks, and I'm down bad." But I think what's very important as a person is just to make sure that, like, you feel whatever you want to feel in that moment, but you don't live in that moment. Because if you live in that moment and you build a house around that situation, you're going to dwell there. Like, you're not going to move from that. So allow the feelings to come and to pass. And that's exactly what I did. Got the news in um March. Yeah, it was like towards, yeah, it was March. Yeah, it was March 2021. Yeah. God, it was a crazy day. I was just, I think I was working. Yeah, I was just working, running through some emails. It was like towards the end of the day. Um, got a random email, PET scan results. A PET scan is a scan that you do to see whether like you still have active cancer cells in your body. So the subject was PET scan results. I was so nervous when I opened that email, but came through. It was clear. And look, I don't understand doctor's language, but I was just looking for the points where it says, no cancer cells found and things like that. So I saw all of that. I was really, really happy. I remember that day I actually went out with a friend, had pizza, you know. Yeah, it was really, really a good time. Um, I actually, after that, I decided that, my first tattoo would actually be the date that I got the results that I was cancer free, and that was the 29th of March, 2021. So yeah, it's on my body forever. Around March when I got the results, and then APC was around December. Oh, that APC was also such a nightmare because that was also the year where we were stuck in Galaga for countless hours. I just don't remember what was the actual situation, but like it was the year where APC just went wrong. But yes, I did go on to write that year. I went on to register for the board course as well. Um, and I just tried to make it a point to not stress too much because I was given orders, strict orders by my nurse and the doctor to just avoid stress, just in the sense where sometimes when you stress too much, it does trigger certain symptoms, or not that it'll trigger a relapse, but stress is not good for your body. So I was just told to avoid anything that is not good for my body, that is particularly stress and sugar. So those were my big no-nos. So I just made sure that throughout the APC process, I knew it's daunting, but I knew that I could only manage it as much as I reasonably could. Like, there were times where in the actual board course, I didn't pass the exams. I think I had to write the sub for the board course. Yes, I did. That's the first sub I've ever written in my life. So I was just like, okay, it is what it is. and we'll make do with whatever comes out. Then, yeah, I was able to qualify for the final exam to which I wrote. And yeah, I did pass it first attempt. Um, Truly grateful for that as well. I I don't know, I can't even say how I was able to channel that beast mode, but I was just able to channel it, and I just knew you need to just do this now, and after that you won't really have to worry about a thing. So yeah, I was still healing from the trauma of going through cancer, but I couldn't allow it to take the center of focus because I really wanted to write that exam and pass it. I cried like I was alone in my apartment. I called my mom and I cried. Like I just cried. I couldn't even speak. She kind of figured that okay, this is about results. So I managed to utter that I passed, but it was literally just tears on tears the whole time. Um, I was really, really grateful because I think when I look back at my story, or at that point when I was looking back at everything that I had to go through to achieve this thing, I realized that, it's everybody has their stories, but like for me, it's like I don't want to say I almost lost my life, but I could have lost my life in this process, but I didn't. But it was a factor. And for me, that makes it very special. For me, that tells me that I'm not a CA just for fun. Like I was meant to be a CA no matter what. And this is not something that I should just be like, oh, okay, you know, on the side. It's something that I need to use to impact people's lives or inspire people in any way that I can. I need to use this platform to be able to reach people, because I fought to get here. So um, I know people are fighting, and I just want to be able to help, you know, gear them up, or like, just give them inspiration to keep on fighting for that. Yeah. I would say just don't, the main thing is do not build a house around your problem. We tend to face issues in life and build houses around them, and those houses grow roots, and it's hard to now uproot them and move on from the situation. We should always just allow whatever feelings we're feeling, allow it to come and allow it to pass. I wouldn't say you should dwell on the situation. And I think in most situations as well, we give up too easily. We give up too easily. I think one thing about CTA that I learned, for example, is that any situation can be turned around. CTA, there was a exam I think I got 18, no, I got 30% for tax in CTA, one of my tests. And that time I was a tax tutor. So it was actually very embarrassing for me. I'm like, how am I tutoring tax, but I'm getting 30% for a tax test? You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, but it's something where it's like, this situation can be turned around. So whatever you're going through, don't ever feel like that's how it's going to be for the rest of your journey or for the rest of your life. It does get easier, but for you to help it get easier, you have to be stronger mentally. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people struggle with. I also do struggle with it till today, sometimes. But I think the more you practice just mentally being strong and mentally being able to persevere, the more likely your outcome will be positive. So yeah, I'd like to think there's a lot of CAs out there today who have similar stories, if not more daunting stories about having to repeat certain years and things like that. But them seeing them being able to turn around their situations has inspired all of us. And I think the journey continues. We should still keep looking forward. um, I got to this place because I watched people um, before me, basically. conquer things that you thought this cannot be achieved. So for me, it's like for those who are behind, keep looking forward, keep looking at the people who are breaking barriers, and tell yourself that you can do that too. I would always say when it comes to being a CA or just achieving any goal, we should always leave the door open. Like, just because I'm a CA doesn't mean the door closes behind me. I need to leave the door open and extend my hand to someone else who's trying to become a CA. We all need to hold each other's hands and get there eventually. No one gets there alone and remains there alone.